I'll never forget the feeling of being surrounded, my heart racing as I scanned the horizon for any sign of escape. It's a sensation that's hard to describe, but it's a mix of fear, adrenaline, and a dash of desperation. We'd been on a mission for weeks, patrolling the outskirts of a war-torn city. Our unit, a mix of seasoned veterans and fresh recruits, had been tasked with securing a key supply route. But something went wrong. Our communications went dead, and before we knew it, we were ambushed. The enemy poured in from all sides, their gunfire and screams filling the air. I remember the sound of gunfire echoing off the buildings, the acrid smell of smoke and sweat hanging heavy over us. It was chaotic, with bullets whizzing past our heads and the sound of shattering glass all around. Our unit was vastly outnumbered, and I knew our only chance was to hold out until reinforcements arrived. But as I looked around at my comrades, I saw the fear in their eyes. We were all thinking the same thing: we might not make it out alive. I remember one of my teammates, a young private named Alex, crouched behind a crumbling wall, his eyes fixed on the enemy lines. He was shaking, his hands clenched into fists as he tried to steady himself. I knew that look, that feeling of being completely overwhelmed. I'd seen it in the mirror, too. As the enemy closed in, I knew we had to think fast. Our unit's leader, a seasoned sergeant named Rachel, shouted out orders, trying to coordinate our defense. But it was clear we were in trouble. The enemy was pushing hard, their numbers seemingly endless. I remember thinking that we were in a hopeless situation, that we were doomed to fail. But then I saw something that changed everything. A figure emerged from the smoke, her rifle at the ready. She was a woman, her face obscured by a black bandana, her eyes locked on the enemy. I remember thinking she was a ghost, a spirit risen from the ashes to save us. She moved with precision, her rifle firing in short, controlled bursts. The enemy was caught off guard, stumbling backward as she picked them off one by one. I watched in, or as she worked her magic, her rifle firing with deadly accuracy. The enemy was faltering, their lines weakening as they tried to retreat. But she kept pushing forward, her gun firing in a steady rhythm. I remember feeling a sense of hope, of possibility, that we might actually get out of this alive. And then, just as suddenly as she'd appeared, she vanished. The enemy was retreating, their lines broken. We'd been given a second chance. As the dust settled, I turned to my teammates, searching for any sign of life. We were all shaken, but we were alive. And then I saw her, emerging from the smoke, her rifle still at the ready. She walked towards us, her eyes locked on mine, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. Who was this mysterious figure? And how had she saved us from certain death? I knew then that our story was far from over, that this was just the beginning of a journey that would take us down some very dark roads. But for now, we were alive. We'd been given a second chance, and we knew we had to make the most of it. As we regrouped, trying to process what had just happened, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were in for a wild ride. And I was right. The enemy was far from defeated. They'd regroup, recharge, and come back at us with a vengeance. We knew that, and we were ready. But we were also aware that we'd just been given a glimpse of something incredible, a soldier who was willing to risk everything to save us. And I knew that I'd never forget her face, her eyes, her rifle. She'd changed everything. As we pushed forward, trying to secure our position, I couldn't help but wonder what lay ahead. Would we be able to hold out until reinforcements arrived? Or would we be forced to retreat, leaving the enemy to regroup and plan their next move? One thing was certain: we were in for a fight, and it was going to be a long and bloody one. But we were ready. We'd been given a second chance, and we knew we had to make the most of it. And as I looked around at my comrades, I knew that we were all thinking the same thing. We were in this together, and we were going to see it through, no matter what. The enemy may have thought they'd got the better of us, but they were wrong. We'd been given a second chance, and we were going to make the most of it. And as I looked at the mysterious figure, her rifle still at the ready, I knew that we were in good hands. We'd been given a guardian angel, a soldier who was willing to risk everything to save us. And I knew that I'd never forget her face, her eyes, her rifle. She'd changed everything. But the story doesn't end there. In fact, it's just beginning. And as we pushed forward, trying to secure our position, I knew that we were in for a wild ride. We'd been given a second chance, and we were going to make the most of it. But as we advanced, we knew that we were walking into the unknown. And that's when the real battle began. I'll never forget the moment she appeared on the horizon. That's when I saw her, a young, fierce woman with a rifle in her hands and a look of determination on her face. At first, I thought she was one of our own, lost in the chaos of the battle. But as she moved closer, her rifle firing shot after shot with precision and speed, I realized she was something else entirely. She had somehow managed to sneak past our enemies and was now taking out targets one by one. Her accuracy and speed left us all in awe. I watched in stunned silence as she moved from enemy to enemy, her rifle never faltering. It was as if she was a ghost, invisible to our foes but deadly to anyone who got in her way. As I watched her work, I felt a surge of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we had a chance to turn the tide of this battle. Our enemies had us surrounded, but she was changing the equation. She was like a switch flipped, turning the tables on our attackers. I felt a sense of excitement building inside me, mixed with a dash of fear. What if she got caught? What if she got hurt? I glanced around at my comrades, and I could see the same thoughts written on their faces. We were all thinking the same thing. This woman was our ticket out of this mess. She was our lifeline. And as I watched her take out another enemy, I couldn't help but wonder, who was she? Where did she come from? And why was she fighting for us? For a moment, everything else faded into the background. The sound of gunfire, the screams of the wounded, the smell of smoke and sweat, it all disappeared. All that was left was her, moving with a purpose and a precision that left me breathless. It was as if she was born for this moment, born to fight in this war. As she took out another enemy, I felt a sense of gratitude wash over me. We were in this together now, she and I. We were in this fight together. And I knew, in that moment, that I would follow her anywhere. I would trust her with my life. Because in a battle where hope seemed lost, she had given me a reason to keep fighting. And as I watched her move forward, rifle at the ready, I couldn't help but wonder, what's next? What's the next move in this battle? Will she be the one to lead us to victory, or will she fall in the process? The questions swirled in my mind, but one thing was certain, I was hooked. I was hooked on this woman, this mysterious warrior who had appeared out of nowhere and changed the game. I remember the moment when the enemy's relentless onslaught became almost unbearable. Wave after wave of attacks pushed us back, our positions crumbling under the sheer force of their assault. I was starting to lose hope, my heart racing with every incoming bullet. But then, she appeared on the horizon, that young, fierce woman with a rifle slung over her shoulder, a look of determination etched on her face. At first, I thought she was one of our own, a lost comrade who'd somehow managed to escape the chaos. But as she began to take out targets with precision and skill, I realized she was something more. She was a force to be reckoned with, a one-woman army who seemed to be single-handedly holding off the enemy. I was in awe of her bravery and skill, watching in wonder as she moved with a fluidity that belied the danger surrounding her. Her rifle was her extension, an integral part of her being that she wielded with a confidence that was both inspiring and terrifying. I felt a surge of hope as I watched her take out enemy after enemy, our position slowly stabilizing under her protection. But it wasn't until she turned to me, her eyes locked on mine with a fierce intensity, that I realized we had a chance to escape. "Let's get out of here," she mouthed, her voice low and urgent. And with that, we made our move, slipping away from the enemy's grasp as they were distracted by her continued onslaught. I remember the feeling of relief that washed over me as we put distance between ourselves and the danger that had been closing in on us. We moved swiftly, our footsteps light as we navigated the treacherous terrain. I couldn't help but glance back at her, my mind racing with questions about who she was and how she'd managed to find us. But for now, I just focused on putting one foot in front of the other, our escape from the enemy's clutches hanging precariously in the balance.